The Thunder is 1-12 since the coaching change, the same record it had before the coaching change. Can you call that progress? From the Dodge Sports Desk, I'm Mike Sherman, and this is One-on-One with Thundermadness.com. With me are Thunder beat writers Darnell Mayberry and Mike Baldwin. Guys, let's jump right in. Did the coaching change work? Mike Baldwin.
Well, they're playing better, they're playing with more energy, but win-loss record-wise, it's the same. And so did the coaching change work? The bottom line was fans are booing, they're not playing hard, they're giving up layups. Where it worked is the fans aren't booing but a smidge here and there because they're playing harder and they're competitive in every game. So it worked from the standpoint they wanted to give their fans that are loyal, one of the top 10 crowds in the league percentage of filling up the seats, at least a good product to cheer for. So it worked from that standpoint, but it's still the same roster. It's not like all of a sudden they made 3 big trades or they brought in 3 new players, so you can only put so much on Scott Brooks, but they definitely are playing harder and it's a better product.
Darnell, did it work?
Yeah, I mean, for everything that Mike just said, I mean, you look at the competitiveness of these games now. They're losing games by 7.6 points instead of 12.2 like they were under PJ. The energy is better in practice and in games. They're playing harder. But when you look at the offense is much better than it was under PJ Carlesimo, and that's the biggest difference. Scoring is up. Like I said, they're not losing games by as much. Field goal percentage is up. 3-point percentage is up. They're making more. So all around the board, offensively, is better. Defensively, they've taken a step back. I mean, PJ Carlesimo really focused on defense, and Scott Brooks has really wanted to get this team sort of rolling on offense, and that's it's hurt the defense a little bit. So I think it has worked in some areas. For the most part, I think it was a good move.
Did PJ get a bum rap? Darnell, you go first.
I think he did. I mean, when you look at him going 20-62 in Seattle last year, it's hard to say that he got a bum rap. But this was a rebuilding situation all along, and coaches that come into these situations never get an easy road. So I don't know what they were expecting PJ to do. He got off to a 1-12 start this year, but it's still a rebuilding situation. So I think he did get a bum rap.
Well, I wouldn't call it bum rap. I'd say raw deal for some of the things Darnell referred to because this
What's
team.
the difference?
Well, the team quit on him, so I wouldn't say he got a bum rap because when a team quits on a coach, it's time for a change. And so were the expectations a little bit much for a team that played poorly last year? Sure. They were only going to win 20, 25, 30 games. Some of us thought now they're going to maybe win less than that. But, you got to lay it in his lap. Why didn't they play hard for him? Did he get a raw deal because he inherited a bad team and expectations got a little much for a new city that's filling up the arena every night? Yeah, but I'm saying a raw deal. To inherit this, bum rap, no.
Okay, we're almost 1/3 of the way through the NBA season. The Thunder has 2 victories, on pace for a season of historic futility, on a pace far closer to what national experts projected than what the local media projected, including all those who were present. What did they see that we didn't, Mike?
Well, this is a young team and they're having problems closing out games. They saw that the roster still had too many holes, and your veterans aren't the guys that are scoring 20, 25 a game like you see around the league leading those teams. So they knew right away that this team was going to lack some closing experience and this and that. We put too much stock in the Durant and Green would take a step forward, which they have, would be enough to get them more wins. And they really should have 5 or 6 more wins, but that would still be one of the worst teams in the league like they were predicting. We were all thinking, we all have admitted weekly on here, we projected too high. Now we're pulling back on those projections. What they saw is the reality. Young teams have a hard time winning.
I think everything Mike said is true, but at the same time, Kevin Durant and Jeff Green were supposed to be better earlier in the year. Right now they're playing their best basketball of the season. What I looked at was the veterans that they acquired. Desmond Mason, Joe Smith. They already had Nick Collison and Earl Watson coming back, both of them coming off career years. And really none of them have played up to their potential. Joe Smith perhaps being the exception, and Desmond Mason is still continuing with his hustle and defense and hard work that he normally does. But the thing about predictions is these same experts that did get it right, they got it wrong when the Hornets were here. When they came out and said they're going to be one of the worst teams in the league, they came out and won 37 games. So it happens. We were wrong and they were right, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean much. I'd say.
And the one point I don't think we've made enough around here is it's Wilcox, Collison, Watson, Smith, most of those veterans, their numbers are a little down compared to what their careers are. We knew the young kids would probably get a little better. Westbrook would have growing pains. Some might be really good, some nights not so good. And it's not to throw it in all those veterans' laps, but a lot of them are starting to play better. That's why when everybody says they're about ready to turn the corner until we see wins, they're not. But I think everybody on the team's starting to play a little bit better, and they're learning each other. They had to regroup under Brooks. I mean, they're playing a different style of ball. Mason, in your story today, even said something about sometimes I catch myself doing things PJ told me to do, and we're not doing that now. So I think all these factors come together. If not, it could be a long season, but I think there's so many variables on why the loss is mounted. We'll see if it gets fixed here in the next couple of weeks.
The other thing is I predicted 35, and, I'm willing to admit I was wrong on my 35, obviously. They're not going to win 35 games. But the thing is, nobody thought they'd win fewer than 20, and have fewer victories than they did last year. I don't think many people thought that they weren't going to be a better team than they were last year. So
Mark Stein picked 15. Next question. Percent chance that we'll enter the month of March and the league record for fewest victories owned by the 72, 73, 76ers will be a part of the conversation.
So you're saying what, 5 or 6 wins going into March?
It'll be part of the conversation. Darnell.
0.3% chance. I don't think that they're going to come close to touching that 72, 73 Sixers record. I think, it's a long season. They have, 56 games left. There's a lot of time left. I mean, Baldwin points it out all the time. If they win 3 games over the next 4 weeks, the pace changes drastically. And so when you look at it like that, it's easy to say now that they're sitting on 2-24 that they're on pace for this or on pace for that. But as soon as they get 1 or 2 wins, that pace changes drastically. So I don't think it's much of a chance at all.
Not 1 or 2 wins, not drastically.
Yeah, but the Bills were on pace to go to the Super Bowl this year, and they've fallen apart, and you can reverse a lot of these early trend paces. That's why he agrees. One thing I found out, though, at the San Antonio game last Sunday is one of their beat writers covered the Denver Nuggets back when they won 11 games just 4 or 5 years ago. He said before the game,
10.
No, it was 1171. He said, I'll send you a lot of that chasing 76ers history before the game. After the game, he comes up to me, no way, no how this team will win less than 15. They got way too much talent. I like what I saw tonight. And you saw similar comments out of the Dallas Morning News people the night before. Now, it was 2 of their better games. They have to start winning games. Until they start winning games, this will be on the table. But too many people, there's too much talent on this team to win less than 15 games. They got to start doing it to get this behind them. But until they do, that's going to be on the table.
So what's your percentage?
Percent chance?
2% chance it's still talked about in March.
Okay, next question. An NBA writer on NBA.com quoted Nick Collison this week as saying, I hope they don't build any bad habits. He was talking about the younger Thunder players and how they're influenced by losing. Have they built any bad habits, Mike?
Not so far. You talk to Mason and Smith and some of the veterans. They said that's the one encouraging thing on this is they're still practicing hard. They still got each other's backs. They still look like they're having fun playing it. Even though the recent losses, you can tell the frustration starting to mount. They're leaving the locker room a little quick after some of these games. They know they need some wins, not to necessarily make a playoff run, just to get out of this bad streak they're in. And so you can see, if something like that were to happen, it would be in the next 2 to 3, 4 weeks. That's why I think getting some wins, by the first of the year or at least by mid-January will be pretty important for this team because they're doing a lot of the things right, but it's not resulting in W's. And so if it keeps going that way, that's when bad habits can get going. That's why they need a few wins.
Don't know.
I think PJ Carlesimo, if he would have stayed around, would have probably, I think
PJ?
That's PJ.
I probably need to stop talking about PJ Carlesimo. I think, had he still been around for these last 13 games, I think they probably would have developed some bad habits. But the fact that he was gone, I think, like you said, the energy's up. They're playing better. So I think, they're a better team now, and they're not developing bad habits because of that.
Okay, guys, last question. We profiled Joe Smith, the well-traveled Joe Smith, in Tuesday's paper, but on Tuesday night against the Clippers, he didn't make the trip onto the court. What was Scott Brooks' explanation for that about Joe, who's been a key figure in this team? And are you guys buying it?
His explanation basically was that when you start Jeff Green at power forward, you start Johan Petro at center, then you have Chris Wilcox returning from that 2-game absence with the dislocated finger. You have Nick Collison coming off the bench playing well, and then you also have Joe Smith, who you have to factor in. 96 minutes in the game, you can't play 5 big men. I mean, somebody had to get the short end. Nick Collison and Chris Wilcox came off the bench, and they were playing well. So I am buying Scott Brooks' explanation. However, I don't think Johan Petro, I think he played about 15 minutes that game. He could have given those minutes to Joe Smith.
Why didn't he?
Because he didn't know what he was going to get out of Wilcox that night. I mean, the explanation is just, but it's bad thinking. Joe Smith's one of your veterans. You got to go into the game no matter how everybody else was playing, figuring out a way to get him in there. One, Green is not locked in at the 4. He's played some 3 this year, and he was playing some 3 that night. So don't give me this 96 minutes went to 4 guys, because, I mean, at one point, Jeff Green is out there playing the 3, and you had Wilcox and Carlson out there together at the 4 and the 5. It wasn't like he was locked in there the whole game at the 4. And the other part is Petro. You watch. Petro did not play the first 5 games under Scott Brooks. That's how he's going to correct this for the next game. It's one of those things, I think even a young coach at times, they learn on the job, and it happened the way it happened. Wilcox and Carlson played well off the bench that night, so you don't want to take minutes away from them, but the fact that he locked himself into playing Petro at the first and third quarters to start, that sort of reduced his chances of getting Joe out there. He likes Joe a lot. That problem will be fixed. My guess is Petro will be out of the mix, Smith will be in, and that's what you'll see Friday night at the Ford Center.
The Thunder's got 2 games this weekend, Friday night against the Toronto Raptors, and then Sunday, one of the premier games of the season. LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers comes to town. Thanks, guys. Listen, that's all for ThunderMadness.com, but you can continue the conversation a couple of ways. First, check out ThunderMadness.com, Oklahoma City's newest and best NBA fan website. Second, participate in the live blog during Thunder games at newsok.com. You can debate all things Thunder with these guys and other fans. Lastly, follow the best coverage team every day on newsok.com and in the new look Oklahoman.